Hello and good morning. I'm Holly, reporting to you live from 𝐊𝐴𝐴 Studios in Sydney, and you're watching The Early Trades, a show where we share with you a glimpse at the Australian share market opening trade landscape, along with the global and domestic drivers triggering the market momentum. In our first segment of the show today, we'll be looking at how the early morning trades panned out, taking cues from Wall Street action overnight. Then in the last segment, we'll be looking at the prominent newsmakers grabbing the headlines during the early trading hours, as well as movements seen in cryptocurrency, crude oil, gold, and metals indices. While the Australian share market opened in green today, despite the US markets closing flat. The top performing stocks in the ASX 200 today are CSR Limited and Afterpay. Benchmark US indices closed flat on Monday as global oil prices tumbled amid rising Delta virus concerns, deterring investors from exploring opportunities in the stock market. The S&P 500 fell 0.09%, while the Dow Jones declined 0.30%, and the Nasdaq Composite rose, however, 0.16%. Investors pulled back from economically sensitive stocks on Monday, as declining oil prices created unease over the recovery outlook of the world's biggest economy. The spread of the Delta virus variant added to their worries as well. The robust labour data on new job openings in June also failed to motivate them. And moving on now, US jobs opening rose by 580,000 to 10.1 million. While hirings increased from 6 million to 6.7 million in June, the Labour Department said on Monday. This shows that despite supply bottlenecks that constrained new recruitments, the US labour market continues to improve. Global oil prices dipped after data showed that China, one of the world's leading oil importers, noticeably cut its daily crude imports in July compared to the previous month. Brent oil futures ticked down by 2.79%, while WTI crude futures slipped 3.21%. And the financial sector provided the most significant boost to the S&P 500 on Monday, as the communication and consumer discretionary sectors saw small gains, while the energy stocks trailed. 6 of the 11 sectors on the index stayed in the negative territory on Monday's session. And of the 443 S&P 500 companies that have reported quarterly earnings so far, around 80% of them beat market expectations. Now, analysts expect about 93% of jumps in quarterly profit of the index this session. Meanwhile, asset management company Brookfield Asset Management said on Monday that its reissuance business would acquire the financial services company American National Group for about $5.1 billion in an all-cash deal. Following the announcement, shares of American National surged 8.30%, while Brookfield stock rose 0.52% in intraday trading. Next up is Tyson Foods, which jumped 8.48% after it raised its revenue estimate for the financial year 21. The meatpacking company raised the revenue outlook to $46 billion to $47 billion from the earlier $44 to $46 billion. And the next stock that was in the news is sports betting operator DraftKings, as it said it would buy the Golden Nugget online gaming for $1.56 billion. Golden Nugget advanced 51.87%. And DraftKings stock rose as well, 1.71%. On the other hand, poultry producer Sanderson Farms has agreed to purchase by private firms Cargill and Continental Grain for $4.5 billion. The Sanderson Farms stock jumped 7.41% after the news. And to the crypto world now, the Coinbase stock railed 7.62%, lifted by gains in Bitcoin. On the other hand, Bitcoin surged 6% and Ethereum advanced 6.73%. Well, it's time for a short break now on 𝐊𝐴𝐴 TV, but stay tuned. Welcome back from the break. I'm Holly, your host, live from 𝐊𝐴N Studio, and you're watching The Early Trade, a show where we share with you a glimpse of the Australian share market opening trades. Moving on now to the last segment of the show, let's quickly look at the highlights of the prominent ASX stocks under the spotlight during the early trades. Well, first on our list today is Megaport, which has reported a net loss of $55 million in the financial year 21, while the revenue has grown by 35% to $78.3 million. At the end of the reported year, annualized recurring revenue had grown to a 32% jump, with total customers increasing 24%. Next up is Macquarie Group, which has taken a stake of $1.9 billion into Britain's highly politicised water utilities sector, buying a majority stake in Southern Water. Macquarie will have to pump another £530 million on sorting out the chunky debts of Southern Water's complex network of subsidiary companies. And moving on, Challenger has reported a $592 million net profit in the financial year 21, as compared to a loss of $416 million in last year. The company has also declared a dividend of 20 cents per share, an increase of 14 cents. Meanwhile, Commonwealth Bank of Australia will help Klarna lift merchant numbers with customers in retail industry to enable them to accept Klarna in-store and online payments for free until the summer. It's the first competitive response from the bank after last week's mega deal of Square acquiring Afterpay. And lastly, Mesoblast's CFO, Josh Munter, will step down from his duties on the 30th of August. The group's head of finance, Andrew Chapanet, will be taking charge as the interim CFO. And looking at the futures and commodities now, gold futures were down 1.79% and silver decreased by 3.62%, while copper dropped 1.29%. Onto the bond market now, and the 30-year Treasury bond yields were up 2.07%, while the 10-year bond yields rose 2.90%. And in the currency space, the US dollar futures index increased by 0.20%. Well, that is all for now in the early trades. Stay tuned with 𝐊𝐴N TV as we have many more shows lined up for you, sharing the latest updates across economies, markets, and sectors. Holly Shields signing off.